So I want to take a moment here and tie together all of the textures and sorting and angularity and all that stuff. I want to tie this together, and we can pretty much tie this together in one nice diagram. So we've been talking, if you've noticed in those slides, we've been talking about things being close to the source and far from the source. So what do we mean by that? So our source is ultimately going to be the mountains. Okay? Obviously the mountains are eroding. So rivers that are running down the mountains are bringing all of that material out to the ocean. Okay, so that's what we mean by close to the source and far from the source. So here is my source, so that is close. And of course, this is going to be far from the source. Okay, so let's talk about the first component, classed size. So as this mountain maybe initially starts to degrade, it's not going to fall off in little tiny crumbly pieces. We're going to get big pieces, right, that fall off. Now, those big pieces, let me redraw this here better, those big pieces that fall off, okay, are they going to be nice and round, do you think, or are they just going to fall apart and big and blocky? Hopefully you said they're going to fall apart big and blocky. They're going to have highly angular grains. So the closer we are to the source, okay, so let's make this down here, so close and far. The closer we are to the source, the bigger the size, and the more angular it is. Okay. Now, as this material gets swept up in this river and it gets carried down, right, as we see out to the ocean, what's going to happen? Let's think about what's going to happen to the size. Right, those grains are going to roll around in the river. They're going to hit on each other. They're going to hit on the side of the river, on the bottom of the river. So what's going to happen to that size? Hopefully you said it's going to get smaller. Right? So the farther you are from the source, the smaller the size. Now, as it gets smaller, what's going to happen to those angles? Right? We discussed it's going to hit other grains and hit the sides. So those angles are going to get knocked off. So the farther we are from the source, the more round it is going to be. Now we can also talk about, right, that's called angularity and sphericity. Right? So the other thing we can talk about here for a moment is going to be the composition. So when this mountain initially breaks off, right, into these pieces, it's going to have all of the mineral content in there. So it's going to have lots, right, we're going to put high composition. Right, we're going to find lots of stuff in there. Now, as we've learned, as this material travels down and it interacts with the water, most of that material that's in that initial rock is going to start to fall apart. It's going to actually undergo what we call hydrolysis, where it's going to turn to clay. So by the time it reaches the ocean, most of the time all we have left is quartz. So by the time we are far from the source, we have low composition. I wouldn't expect to find a whole lot of different minerals in there, maybe just a couple. Now the other thing we can also talk about is sorting. Right? So sorting is the size mixtures, right? Whether we have a high mixture size or a low mixture size. And we can also kind of put this in here as well. So if I am close to the source, as this material is coming down, it's getting beaten up and broken up into different sizes. So when we are close to the source, we're going to have a high, well, we'll put poorly sorted. And we're going to sum this up on the next page here in a second. So it's going to be poorly sorted. Now, as this material sits in the river and it continues to roll around in the river, things are going to start to work out to becoming about the same size. So when we are far from the source, things are well sorted. So let's tie this together into what we call maturity. So textural maturity is dealing whether we are with something close to the source or far from the source. If we are close to the source, we consider it immature. If we are far from the source, we call this mature. Okay, so immature, close to the source. Mature is far from source. So, what did we say a second ago, right, with all this? What can I expect to find? So, if I am close to the source, I should expect to see large grain size. It should also be highly angular. Okay, I should also expect to see lots of different minerals. All right, so high composition, right? Lots of different stuff. And it's going to be poorly sorted. Now, the longer it sits in the water column and this material starts to get worked out, it becomes mature. So with our mature rocks, we should see smaller grain size. We should see well-rounded. We should also see few minerals, because remember, all the others have turned to clay. And we should see something that's very well sorted. So hopefully that kind of helps you tie all of this together. And it's all related to, right, where it is compared to the source.